What if your child isn't just learning from you, but feeling you? What if their fears, their behaviors, even their dreams are shaped not just by what you say, but by what you haven't yet healed? This is not parenting advice. This is spiritual science. In today's transmission, we enter the hidden realm, where energy moves faster than words, where your unresolved emotions become their silent inheritance, where your vibration becomes their first language, and most importantly, where your healing becomes their liberation. This isn't about guilt, it's about power. The power to break patterns, to rewrite destiny, to awaken a lineage by simply facing yourself. Because your child doesn't just carry your name, they carry your frequency. Let's explore what that really means. Long before a child speaks their first word, there is a silent transmission taking place, a deep, energetic dialogue, written in the language of vibration. The bond between parent and child is not just emotional, it's quantum. In the unseen web of energy, their fields are entangled. Just like quantum particles that influence one another across space, your child feels what you feel, even when it's unspoken, even when it's forgotten. This isn't metaphor, it's physics interwoven with soul. From the womb, your child is tuning into your frequency like a divine radio. Your joys, your fears, your griefs, they ripple through your nervous system, and your nervous system becomes their first teacher. In this sacred entanglement, they learn what is safe to express, what must be hidden, and what you never dared to feel. Not because they choose to, but because they love you so deeply, they carry it for you. Carl Jung once said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of a parent." But it's more than unlived dreams. It's unresolved energy. The traumas you've buried, the emotions you suppress, the shame you've normalized, all of it radiates into the field your child now inhabits. And they, in turn, unconsciously become the living extension of your energetic lineage. It's why some children cry when nothing seems wrong, why they develop fears that don't match their experiences, why they act out what you've never said out loud. They're speaking the unspoken language of your energy body. And in that, they're calling for a kind of healing that transcends words, a healing of frequency, coherence, and conscious awareness. The good news? The bond works both ways. Just as your unhealed pain transfers, so too does your awakening. When you begin to shift your own energy, even subtly, they feel that shift. The child doesn't need a perfect parent. They need an energetically conscious one who's willing to look within, feel deeply, and choose healing not just for themselves, but for the sacred bond they created. Every thought you suppress, every emotion you lock away, doesn't simply vanish. It settles into your subconscious like sediment at the bottom of a river. And from that unseen place, it begins to speak in patterns, reactions, and silent transmissions. Your child, existing in a hyperreceptive brainwave state for their first 7 years, absorbs not only your words, but your frequency. It is here that energetic imprints become their foundational reality. In this early developmental phase, their mind is in theta, the hypnotic bridge between waking and sleeping, between conscious and subconscious. They are not learning by instruction, they are absorbing by vibration. Your anxiety, even masked with a smile, becomes part of their emotional blueprint. Your unresolved anger, even if never spoken aloud, becomes a frequency they interpret as truth. This is how energy passes down generational lines, not as memory, but as imprint. You might never speak of your childhood trauma, but the energy of that experience lives in your body, your breath, your nervous system. And through daily interactions, through glances, tones, moments of silence, that unspoken frequency begins to root itself in your child's subconscious. Greg Braden speaks of the divine matrix, a field that links all of life through information and intention. Within that matrix, children are not passive recipients, but active participants in a soul-level dance. They're not just learning from you, they're inheriting you, not biologically alone, but vibrationally. And so, your subconscious becomes their starting point, the energetic soil in which their reality will grow. But this is not a tale of doom. This is the gateway to transmutation, because just as imprints are passed through unconscious energy, they can be rewritten through conscious presence. When you heal your inner world, you change the script they're absorbing. When you shift your subconscious beliefs, you gift them a different starting frequency, one that's clearer, freer, and more aligned with truth. When a child misbehaves, breaks down, or seems overly sensitive, the traditional lens might label it as defiance, attention-seeking, or immaturity. But through the spiritual lens, behavior is not just behavior, it is communication. More often than not, it's a mirror, a reflection of the emotional terrain they're navigating, much of which originates from the energetic environment around them. Children don't have the language to say, "I'm carrying something that isn't mine," but they express it with tantrums, with silence, with seemingly irrational fears. What looks like restlessness may be the absorption of unspoken anxiety. What feels like disobedience could be a subconscious reenactment of an unresolved power dynamic. The child becomes the living metaphor for what the parent has yet to face. Bruce Lipton reminds us that the subconscious mind governs 95% of our daily life, and children are living, breathing emulations of our subconscious programs. If a parent has buried shame, the child may become overly apologetic or hyper-perfectionistic. If the parent has unacknowledged grief, the child may become hypersensitive, almost empathic to a fault. They don't mean to mirror. It's how energy works. It seeks coherence by resonance. And yet, when we view these behaviors with frustration or punishment, we miss the sacred invitation. The child is not showing you who they are. They're showing you what the energy around them feels like. They are the unfiltered echo of your own hidden self. And in that, they offer you something profoundly healing, awareness. This is where deep transformation begins. Not by fixing the child, but by listening to them energetically. What behavior triggers you most? What emotional reaction do you feel, but try to suppress? In those very moments, you are being shown the inner landscape that's asking for your love. Heal that and watch how the mirror softens. Your child isn't misbehaving. They're trying to alchemize your pain with their presence. Science is finally catching up to what mystics have always known, that the past lives on in the present, not as memory, but as frequency. Epigenetics, the study of how gene expression is influenced by environment and emotion, reveals that trauma doesn't end with the individual, it echoes through generations. And what echoes isn't just biology, but vibration. When a parent endures unprocessed trauma, abandonment, betrayal, fear, it alters their energetic field, their hormonal balance, and even their DNA expression. These changes aren't always physical mutations. They are vibrational codings embedded into the gene's behavior. As Dr. Joe Dispenza explains, every thought produces a biochemical reality. When left unexamined, that reality becomes a legacy, a silent inheritance passed to the child. What this means is profound. Your child may carry fears they've never experienced firsthand. They may feel pressure to be perfect, to stay invisible, to earn love without knowing why. These are not random patterns. They are vibrational residues passed through both lineage and environment. Trauma becomes a frequency that teaches before words ever do. Yet vibration is not a prison, it is a tool of transformation. When we understand that trauma is stored energy, we also realize it can be transmuted. Through breathwork, heart-brain coherence, and conscious emotional processing, we shift the frequency of our very cells. The moment a parent begins to regulate their own nervous system, they are rewriting the energetic script their child will live by. So inherited trauma is not a life sentence. It's a wake-up call, a call to interrupt the pattern, to break the spell, to alchemize pain into presence. The science of epigenetics and the wisdom of vibration both agree. What you heal now doesn't just change your future, it liberates your child's present. Before the body, before the name, before the first breath, there was an agreement, a soul-to-soul recognition forged in the invisible realms. You and your child didn't meet by chance. You called to each other across time and space, drawn together by a sacred contract of evolution, healing, and remembrance. This bond is not random. It is destiny encoded in vibration. Many traditions speak of the idea that souls choose their families, that children don't just arrive, they answer a call, and often that call is laced with karmic echoes and unfinished lessons. Your child may come to illuminate what you've avoided, to awaken what you've buried, or to reflect back the very energy you once refused to feel. Not as punishment, but as a mirror of grace. These soul contracts are not about ease, they are about awakening. A highly sensitive child may enter a lineage where emotional numbness has been the norm. A rebellious spirit might arrive to break generational chains of compliance. What feels challenging in human terms is often sacred in soul terms. Your child agreed to carry what you couldn't, but only so that you would remember your own power to heal. Neville Goddard reminds us that imagination is the creative force of reality. So ask yourself, what did your child come to remind you of? What part of you awakens in their presence? Their soul didn't come to complete your story, they came to catalyze it. They are not your possession, they are your reflection, your teacher, your sacred co-creator. And just as contracts can be honored, they can also be transcended. When you consciously step into your healing, you fulfill your side of the agreement. The energetic burdens you carried begin to lift from their path. And in that shared liberation, the soul contract evolves from one of karmic entanglement to one of conscious love. The signs are subtle, but they speak volumes. A child who suddenly withdraws, cries without cause, or mirrors your stress during moments of silence. These are not random occurrences. They are energetic signals. Sensitive children in particular act as emotional sponges. Not only do they feel their own emotions, they absorb the frequencies you haven't yet healed. Their reactions are clues to the vibrations you're unconsciously emitting. You may notice that your child gets anxious when you're suppressing anger, or they become clingy when you're emotionally distant. These aren't behavioral quirks, they are intuitive adjustments. The child senses the dissonance between your inner state and your outer expression, and because they love you unconditionally, they try to balance the energy, often by carrying it themselves. Manly P. Hall once said that children are not just beings of tomorrow, they are mirrors of today. If your child becomes easily triggered, constantly seeks validation, or exhibits emotional extremes, they may be reflecting something unresolved in your energy field. It could be grief you've never voiced, shame you carry silently, or fear you've normalized for survival. The key is not self-blame, it's self-inquiry. Observe their emotional spikes. What's happening in your world at that moment? What have you been avoiding feeling? What story have you been repeating silently in your mind? Your child is often reacting not to the world, but to your internal weather. They feel your storms before you even acknowledge the clouds. Healing begins with awareness. When you become emotionally congruent, when your outer expression matches your inner truth, you create coherence in your energetic field. This coherence brings safety to the child's nervous system. They don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be energetically honest, because in your transparency they find stability, and in your healing they find freedom. Breaking the generational cycle of energetic inheritance isn't about intellectual insight alone. It's about embodiment. It's about shifting the frequency you live in so your child no longer has to carry what you haven't yet transformed. And the tools are not hidden in monasteries. They are within your breath, your awareness, your intention. Begin with coherence breathing, a simple, sacred act of aligning your heart and brain. As taught by Greg Braden and HeartMath, breathe in for 5 seconds, out for 5, while focusing on gratitude or love. This practice regulates your nervous system, softens reactive states, and emits a field of harmony your child will feel even without a word. You don't have to explain your healing. You just have to be it. Use mirror journaling as a tool to decode behavioral echoes. Write down your child's most consistent emotional patterns, then ask, "Where in me does this live?" You'll begin to see that what frustrates you in them often traces back to what remains hidden in you. This self-inquiry becomes a portal of transmutation. You heal by seeing clearly, without judgment, only presence. Incorporate energy clearing practices, whether through sound, tuning forks, singing bowls, movement, ecstatic dance, trauma release exercises, or meditation. Set the intention to release what no longer serves you and your lineage. As you recalibrate your field, your child's behaviors may spontaneously shift. Because children don't need lectures, they need aligned frequency. Introduce emotional honesty into your home. Speak your truth, gently but clearly. Say, "I'm feeling sad today, but I'm here with you." This simple act of naming emotions teaches them emotional fluency and removes the pressure to absorb your unspoken burdens. In your authenticity, they find their own permission to feel without fear, and above all, cultivate self-compassion. Healing inherited energy is not about guilt, it's about grace. Every step you take toward your own inner liberation echoes forward in time. You are not just healing yourself, you are rewriting your entire lineage. One breath, one truth, one vibration at a time. The moment you decide to heal, you become more than a parent. You become a frequency shifter, a living bridge between the past and the future. Your child isn't just watching your actions, they are feeling your evolution. And when you rise, not just in words but in vibration, you awaken something ancient and dormant in them. You give them the permission to be free. This is the essence of legacy. Not material wealth, but energetic integrity. Your child doesn't need perfection, they need your transformation. Every time you choose presence over reactivity, softness over shame, truth over silence, you're rewriting the energetic blueprint they're inheriting. You are becoming the healer so that they may become the heir, not to your wounds, but to your wisdom. Sri Aurobindo spoke of the evolutionary journey of consciousness. He said we are here to become more aware, more divine, more whole. What if your child is not just your responsibility, but your catalyst? What if they are the key to your own awakening? In healing yourself, you unlock the door for their soul to fully arrive, unburdened, unbound, and brilliant in their own light. This journey doesn't require grand ceremonies. It asks for consistent presence, a willingness to sit with your discomfort instead of projecting it, to apologize when needed, to laugh with them, cry with them, grow beside them. It's not about authority, it's about resonance. You are the tuning fork. And when your frequency aligns with love, their entire being harmonizes. So ask yourself, what reality do you want your child to embody? Then become it. Not perfectly, but consciously. Because the true gift of parenthood isn't in control, it's in remembrance. You came here not just to raise them. You came to rise together. You came here thinking you were raising a child. But perhaps in truth, your child came to raise you, to higher awareness, deeper presence, and a more honest vibration. Their tears are not weakness. Their sensitivity is not inconvenience. They are signals from the sacred. They're asking you to feel what you forgot to feel, to heal what you've carried too long. And in doing so, you don't just change your life, you change the lineage. You turn generational wounds into generational wisdom. This is the path of the conscious parent, the energy alchemist, the one who dares to feel it all so the next generation doesn't have to. So if this awakening stirred something in your heart, honor it. Don't scroll past it. Like this video. Share it with someone who's ready to break the cycle. And subscribe to the Cosmic Awakening channel, where hidden truths meet healing light. Because the future doesn't begin with them, it begins with you.